Hey everybody, hope you're doing great today. In this video, I'm going to look at the current state of the single-family residential housing market in the United States. Now, with mortgage rates at close to 7%, a lot of buyers have been forced out of the home shopping game. They're not able to afford the current payments based on the pricing that a lot of sellers are still hoping to get, pricing that was set last year and the year prior. With the high mortgage rates, that pricing represents much higher monthly payments, and that's forcing a lot of buyers to say, okay, this is too much, it doesn't fit my budget. There are a lot of other overhangs on the market as well too. Debt usage is going up with consumers. A lot of people went out and bought new cars. The monthly payments now exceed $1,000 in some cases, which is a large portion of somebody's budget. Then to add on top of that, you have to pay more for a mortgage. Insurance rates as well as taxes on a home have also gone up. So overall, that's contributing towards a lack of affordable homes. Sellers at the same time too, while they want to sell their home, they also face the prospect of having to buy a home. So maybe they did get a lower mortgage rate, either when they purchased that home or when they refinanced the home. They have a mortgage rate of 3% or somewhere there around. So that represents a much lower payment they have on their existing home. If they're to sell their existing home and move to another home, assuming that you're using a mortgage to buy that new home, they will be facing much higher monthly payments as a result of the higher mortgage interest rates. So a lot of sellers are hoping that mortgage rates come down, and that way more buyers come into the market. And then if that happens, then more sellers will come out and sell their properties. Right now, there is not a lot of forced selling, and I don't expect there to be a lot of forced selling. We might see forced selling if we get into a deep recession, and there are a lot of layoffs associated with that recession. Currently, the job market is still very strong. Those who do get laid off, those who do quit their job, are able to find a new job relatively quickly. So there's really no pressure on that end. As we can see from this chart from the St. Louis Federal Reserve, this is an active listing count in the United States. So basically how many houses are on the market for sale today. We did have a recent peak in terms of listings back in 2022, but as you can see, the numbers have gone down quite a bit. They leveled off in March 2023, and we did get a slight bump in April 2023. Overall though, if you look at past couple of years over there, going back to 2017, there were points in time where there were more than 1 million homes listed for sale. Currently, we're at about half of that, and we're looking at 500,000+ homes listed in the current U.S. market. And these are basically homes for sale that buyers can go take a look at and buy. Now, in high demand markets, there's still a lot of demands. There's still a lot of buyers sitting on the sidelines. They're either ready to buy with current mortgage rates because they need a house, or they have cash saved up and they're using that cash to buy a house with the plan that later on, hopefully mortgage rates come down, and then when those mortgage rates come down, they can do a cash out refinance, put a mortgage on that home, get their equity out, and use that cash for whatever else they were using it for in the past. So mortgage rates are up, sellers are shying away from listing their properties, buyers as well are shying away. Since there are fewer homes available, they're not willing to put in those offers. They don't have the budget to support the current higher prices. So basically a couple things need to happen. Either sellers need to reduce their prices, or the mortgage interest rates need to come down. The Federal Reserve has stated that the rates are going to stay higher for longer due to inflation. That's been pretty sticky. It hasn't been coming down as fast as they'd like. With the higher interest rates, it's been shown that the economy can support these higher rates. There hasn't been any major economic issues. Stock market, while it's off its highs, it's still showing signs of strength. Labor market as well, showing signs of strength. Depending on your market for a particular home, there are still multiple offers being presented for these homes, and there's still plenty of cash in the system, as we can see that there are multiple buyers willing to offer cash for regular single-family homes, whether it be for purchasing as an investment, using it as a short-term rental or long-term rental, or to occupy it as their own personal residence. So here's the S&P Case-Shiller U.S. National Home Price Index. This basically tracks pricing of homes across the U.S. As we can see, we hit a peak here in June 2022, and we've been steadily going down to January 2023. This is a lagging chart. Basically, the data they provide is a couple months old. So if you look real closely here, you can see a slight blip up in the pricing over here. It'll take a couple of months to kind of see where that shakes out. With the Case-Shiller Index, what they do is they compare prices of a previous home and then look at today's pricing, what it's sold for, and they'll use that to come up with the value, whether they're going up or down. So prices are still pretty high compared to the beginning of this chart here in 1987. As we can see from a prior recessionary time period when housing did correct, it did have quite a bit of a drop. But then with the low interest rates set by the Federal Reserve, as well as the Federal Reserve buying mortgage-backed securities, we can see the rates were kept low, kept artificially low, and that resulted in quite a big boom in terms of housing pricing. Basically, you've got low mortgage rates, you've got plenty of buyers ready to buy, and that helped drive up the price. And now in the current market, there's not much inventory out there. There's not many homes for sale. So with there not being that many homes for sale, not being that many buyers out there, the pricing is still remaining pretty steady. So it'll take a few months to see where this lays out. There have been a lot of predictions for a recession. So when that starts, what the impact is, what's that going to do to labor, that will tell the tale for housing down the line. So some might be asking the question, should I buy a home? Especially if you move to a new area, whether for a new job or you're moving to be with family and you're considering, should I buy a house now? Everybody needs a place to live, so should I buy or should I rent? There's a number of different factors that you need to consider in that. So let's look at home pricing in terms of the mortgage rates and where home pricings would need to be in terms of today's mortgage rates. So here's an example of a $400,000 home. That's the purchase price. The buyer needs to put down 10%, $40,000. The interest rate that they're going to be paying is 6.94%. Their monthly payment is going to be $2,380.60. Now that number does not include any escrow payments for insurance and taxes, which will add to that number. Now that same $400,000 home with a 10%, with the same down payment, 10%, and a 4% interest rate, which many were able to obtain a year or two ago, their monthly payment was $1,718.70. Again, no insurance and taxes, but as you can see, there's a big difference there of $661.90, almost $700 a month in the monthly payment on that mortgage. So to get an equivalent mortgage today, looking at that $400,000 house, but at a 6.94% mortgage rate, the price of that home would have to drop to $289,000, which is a big drop. So sellers aren't willing to make that big of a drop. Buyers obviously are stuck if they don't have the cash to make a payment, or they don't have the budget to be able to afford that same home at the higher mortgage rate. They're not going to be able to buy. So the question you might be asking is, should I buy a home or not? Whether you're looking to buy a home, you live in an apartment and you just want to buy a home in your current area, or you move to a new area for a job, for moving close to family, should you buy a home or should you rent? So the things to consider in that situation is look at the monthly payment of the house you're going to buy. Not only should you factor in the current mortgage rate, you should look at the price of the home, use a mortgage calculator, figure out your payments, try and get as close as possible to the taxes you're going to pay as well as the insurance payment, and see what that monthly payment is and take a look at that in comparison to your budget. Do you have the budget to be able to afford that home? You should also be looking at the cost of rent. So basically, depending on your family situation, how many household members do you have, how many bedrooms do you need, how many bathrooms do you need, go look at the rent numbers. Let's say you need a 2-bedroom apartment, 1 bathroom. Take a look at that and what's the monthly rent. Compare that to your mortgage payment. Is it cheaper currently to rent or is it cheaper currently to buy a home? That's going to depend on each individual market, so you kind of need to look at that information closely. Then make that determination. Okay, even with high mortgage rates, it's cheaper now to buy a home, pay that mortgage compared to renting, because renting now is expensive in this area, or vice versa. Renting is cheaper in this area compared to buying a home. Rent an apartment, rent a home for a couple of years, and wait to see whether mortgage rates come down or home pricing comes down. Definitely moving is not easy, but at the same time too, the current numbers, if there's a big enough difference between renting and buying a home and paying a mortgage, that might make more sense for one financially. That's all I have for this video. Please hit that like button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.